Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are taking a look at Michael Bay's first Netflix movie, Six Underground. And this is yet another action movie from Michael Bay, and it really doesn't surprise me. Michael Bay is someone who really knows how to direct an action movie, and that's really starting to become more of a lost art form. He used to understand the art of the blockbuster. Emphasis on used to understand. Now, he's made some good movies in recent years. The one that immediately comes to my mind is Pain and Gain with Mark Wahlberg and Dwayne Johnson. Don't get me wrong on that. But does this movie share a lot of the problems that most action movies have today? Or is this a return to glory back when you actually had to have compelling characters to keep these movies alive for the next, 20, 30 years? As always, we start off by looking at the creative team, and I just already said that in the intro that this movie is directed by Michael Bay, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Michael Bay is not a bad director. Now, he's gone overzealous in recent years with all the explosions galore, but he has made good action movies before. He's directed the first two Bad Boys movies, which I've already covered here on the channel. The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, Armageddon with Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck, The Island with Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson, which many people call that movie a ripoff of Logan's Run, which it is to a degree, but it's still a decent movie. The first 5 Transformers movies, which of those movies, only the first one was actually any good. And more recently, the 13-hour Secret Soldier, the Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, which actually was not as bad as I thought it would be. And I even already brought it up in the intro, but Pain and Gain with Mark Wahlberg and Dwayne Johnson, that was also a pretty decent action movie. And this movie was written by writing duo Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese. They wrote I think both the Zombieland movies, G.I. Joe Retaliation, both Deadpool movies, and the movie Life with Jake Gyllenhaal. The only one I have not seen on that list is Life with Jake Gyllenhaal, because to me it looks too much like an Alien clone, but I could be wrong. Now let's get on to the character analysis portion of this review, and we're going to start off with Ryan Reynolds as 1. He's the billionaire. Then we have Melanie Laurent as, I think that's how you pronounce her name, as 2, and she is the CIA spook. Manuel Garcia Rulfo as 3, he's the hitman. Ben Hardy as 4, the Skywalker, basically he's a free runner. I'm going to butcher the hell out of this name because I've never actually heard it pronounced. Adria Arjona as 5, she was the doctor. Dave Franco as 6, the driver. And spoiler alert, he dies in the first 20 minutes of the movie. And Corey Hawkins as 7, he was a former sniper that gets recruited after 6 dies. And that's pretty much it. There's really no other defining character traits outside of just this very simple list. But again, this could also just be a case where the movie could be more plot-driven than character-driven. So now let's go ahead and let's judge the narrative of the movie, if that's even the case. So this movie is rather simple narratively. A group of quote-unquote mercenaries, even though they aren't mercenaries, are wanting to attempt a coup d'etat to take out the evil dictator from the country of Turkestan, or I think it's Turkestan. It's actually located in Pakistan, and replace him with his nicer brother who will give the throne of the nation back to the people. Fairly simple action movie plot. Okay, kind of like, not really the Expendables, even though I think in the Expendables they do try to overthrow a dictator. Now, the big issue with this movie narratively is that none of these characters have any motivation for wanting to even commit the coup in the first place. The only character to have any character motivations is 7. And this is where the flashback sequences are done very well. They show that 7 was a sniper, and he could have saved his men from a UN van that was carrying a bomb when he was stationed in Afghanistan, but he was held back due to the bureaucracy, despite the fact that it wasn't an actual UN van. He was constantly radioing, do I have permission to take the shot? Do I have permission to take the shot? And the van blows up and kills everybody near it. So his motivation for faking his death to join this group of quote-unquote mercenaries is to not get bogged down via bureaucracy and actually give him the ability to save his men without having to answer to anybody. And this does come to a head at some point later in the movie when 1 wants to leave 4 behind, but 7 fights with 1 to save 4. and they actually do save 4 from basically getting killed. And also, one happened to be the billionaire who was at one of the hospitals on the border of Kyrgyzstan when the evil dictator attacked it. Now, that probably doesn't help his popularity rating, because there's more of the people than there are of you. Plus, you're gonna bomb the hospital. Yeah, it's not gonna work out for you. So, one pretty much has a selfish motivation for wanting to commit the coup. And the problem with the logic of the fact that he faked his death and left no trace. So if his motivation was to win the quote unquote Good Person of the Year award, then how is anyone going to know that he was the mastermind behind the coup, since he's technically and legally dead? So exactly, if he had a selfish motivation and he wants to be looked upon as, look at how good of a person I am, well, no one knows you existed and no one knows that you did anything. So your motivation is all, is either all selfish or all internal. And the movie shows more that it's a selfish motivation and not really an internal one. And this movie uses a lot of flashbacks to flush the characters out. Now, I argue that most of this comes at the expense of the narrative. The only backstories that were necessary were that of 1 and 7. Everyone else could have been cut out and it wouldn't have affected the movie. In fact, it may have been better, but that's a real woulda, coulda, shoulda. Because all you had to do for 4 was basically say he was a former thief. Here's 5, who's our doctor, which that's all that they do for her. For 2, they don't even need to show her in the field. All they have to do is say, oh, she's a former CIA spy, so she knows how to gather the intel for us. And with 1, well, hey, I'm just the money man. I'm the Bruce Wayne of the group, in the sense that I'm the guy with a shit ton of money and I don't know how to spend it. And that's all that they really needed to do. And the one thing that I'm going to argue is what would have been better is to make this group of characters actual mercenaries for hire. That way they can at least have a motivation, even if it's to the almighty dollar. And they even have a better slogan than what the Expendables have. They would have the slogan of, we answer to no government because technically and legally we don't exist. So if we get captured, you don't have to worry about shit getting traced back to you, because if they don't exist and they don't crack under pressure, well, they're going to be a much better group of mercenaries to hire than that of a 70-year-old Sly Stallone partnered with, late 60s Dolph Lundgren. Now let's take a look at how the movie was received. Now, this movie being a Netflix original means that there is no box office gross, but it does have a reported budget of $150 million. So that is rather interesting, because most of the Netflix movies that I've covered thus far have not even reported their budgets. So at least we have a reported budget on this one of $150 million. And so this movie has a Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter score of 36% based on 92 critic reviews, with the critics' consensus being, quote, Six Underground is loud, frenetic, and finally preposterous, which is either bad news or a hearty recommendation, depending on how one feels about the movies of Michael Bay, end quote. This movie has an audience score of 60% based on 4,194 audience reviews. This movie has a Metacritic score of 41 based on 22 critic reviews, and a user score of 5.6 out of 10 based on 294 ratings. This movie sits on IMDb at 6.1 out of 10 based on 136,551 reviews. Now, according to Netflix, this movie was watched by 83 million members over the first 4 weeks of release. That doesn't tell us whether or not the movie was a financial hit, but what that tells us is a lot of people watched this. Not as many people that watched Extraction, though, because I think Extraction was viewed by close to like 100 million people, if I remember correctly. But still, Six Underground, is still one of their highest viewed originals. So, we can't really take that away from them. Now, this movie has some awesome action sequences in it. The opening car chase comes to mind, along with the ending where the dictator's yacht is transformed into this giant magnet that has all the bad guys getting tossed around like rag dolls, and the grenades getting stuck and still exploding. If that's all you're looking for in an action movie, then this movie will satisfy that need, most definitely. And personally, I feel that Michael Bay has made a better action movie with a large cast of characters before. And that movie being Armageddon, I brought this up during the creative team portion. When some of those characters started to die, you genuinely cared when you were watching the movie for one major reason. You saw how all of these characters interacted with each other before the big mission. And that is what's missing from this movie. That opening car chase tries to provide that, but it's so rushed and Six dies right away. The characters care about Six's death, obviously, and they even have a funeral for him, but you as an audience member, why the fuck should you care? You only know Six is the driver, and that's really it. Oh, okay, whatever. Okay, he dies. Boo-hoo. I don't care. And I'm going to close off with this before I drag this on for any longer than it needs to be. An action movie can sell itself the first time on just its action alone. That I will stand by. Look at every Transformers movie right after the first one as the prime examples of that. But what keeps audiences coming back and watching a movie like Armageddon or The Rock or Bad Boys after 25, 30 plus years, despite the fact that you know the ending and have the action sequences memorized down to the very second? It's the characters. Without strong characters, your movie will not hold up on repeat viewings. That is almost a guarantee no matter the genre. And we are going to end the review right there, guys. Thanks so much if you made it this far. If you would like to follow me, I do have a blog that is metropolisradio.blogspot.com. I treat that more like social media than an actual blog. If you want to follow me on a social media platform, I am on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Metropolisk. That is with a capital M, lowercase e, T-R, capital O, lowercase B-E-L-I-S-K. If you cannot fucking stand Twitter, which I do not blame you for 1 second, I am also over on Parler with the exact same handle as the Twitter handle @Metropolisk. And I do a gaming live stream every Friday night around 10 p.m.-ish Eastern Standard Time over on the YouTube channel. And one final thing, if you enjoy the content that I produce, then please subscribe to both the YouTube and BitChute channels. It's a small click for you, but for a small channel like mine, it really does help out a lot. Also, like, comment, and share this around only if you want to. You are never obligated to do any of that. The links to the blog, YouTube channel, and social medias are all in the description below. And that is going to do it for this upload, guys. And I will see you next time.